Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the European Parliament Intergroup on Climate Change, Biodiversity and Sustainable Development, I'm very happy to welcome you all to today's event, where we will be addressing the EU promotion policy as an essential tool to ensure the competitiveness and sustainability of the European livestock sector. Before we kick off today's event, I would like to take the opportunity to thank hosting MEP Ms. Katainen for taking the lead with regards to this event. With regards to the content of our discussions, we will be addressing the EU promotion policy, which of course aims at supporting the transition to more sustainable food systems, but at the same time continuing to strengthen the global competitiveness of EU farmers and agri-food business, as well as ensuring the delivery of jobs and growth at home. Prior to passing the floor to Ms. Katainen for her opening remarks, I would just like to invite our audience to send us your questions. You can do that during the event using the Q&As box, which appears at the right of your screen. In doing so, please feel free to also choose the All Panelists option, and please make sure to also note the speaker to whom your question is best addressed, so that on behalf of the Secretariat of the European Parliament Intergroup, we can facilitate a fruitful discussion to follow. So, once again, thank you all for joining us today. And without further ado, I would like to provide the floor to hosting MEP Ms. Katainen, who is a Finnish member of the European Parliament for the Renew Europe Group and significantly the Vice Chair of the Committee on Agriculture and Rural Development, so an MEP with a strong interest and key expertise with regards to the content of today's discussions. So please, Ms. Katainen, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, dear participants. Welcome to this webinar on the EU promotion policy. Today we talk about EU's promotion policy, which I see as a very important tool for European farmers and food industry. Commission is currently renewing the promotion policy program, which should meet the targets of Farm to Fork strategy. The important key element is to have the promotion policy more reachable also for smaller and medium-sized players. I believe that this update is a momentum for that. Commission's public consultation will be open still one more week. In the Farm to Fork strategy, Commission has paid a lot of attention for sustainable diets and healthier food system. We can agree that unhealthy consumption habits and ways of living should not be promoted by society, and in this light, actions by Commission are heading to the welcomed direction. Still, as a former dairy farmer, I can't agree with Commission that the change will be done at the expense of meat production, which is part of the healthy and sustainable diet and plays also an important role in European protein production. I see that we have at the EU level a lot of good examples of sustainable livestock farming, which we should promote and give a boost also in exports. Rather than phasing out support for livestock products, we should incentivize the promotion to best and most sustainable ways to promote to produce meat and dairy products, and like this also show the direction globally. The most important is to keep the key target of the EU promotion policy in the core, which is supporting the competitiveness and exports of European food products. We must respect all the principles of UN of sustainability, which are economical, social, and environmental sustainability. There is no sustainable decision for the environment if the decision is not also economically and socially sustainable. Livestock, meat, and also wine, together with our great vegetables products, fits to this picture. Instead of excluding certain products, promotion policy can be the tool for Europe to reward and boost transition to even more sustainable production. Promotion policy is an important tool to improve the competitiveness of European agriculture products, especially now when the COVID-19 pandemic had a heavy impact on markets and international trade habits. Promotion is needed in order to save market shares and adapt to new sales channels like e-commerce. We will get a lot of information in the becoming panels and also proposals how to better benefit for the promotion policy. On sustainable livestock farming, if somewhere we have sustainable farming, I think that it is in EU. Our legislation on animal welfare is strict. Dairy and cattle farming is grass-based, and we pay attention for the latest research on the plant protection products and implementing measures to protect biodiversity and humans. A forthcoming carbon farming initiative combined to sustainable livestock production, for example, such as pasture-based dairy, will make us even stronger. This is why I see the promotion policy as crucial for our farmers. Quality, safety, and traceability is our strength on the markets. There are also the topics what consumers want more and more. But now I would like to give the floor for our experts. I'm looking forward for the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Katainen, for your opening remarks. Thank you very much to begin with for setting the scene with regards to today's discussion, underlining, of course, its timely nature, but also positioning the content of today's event with regards to the three pillars of sustainable developments, the recent developments at European Union level, but also the key opportunities ahead. So on this note, I'm happy to introduce our next speaker, who is Ms. Nathalie Soos van de Vijver, Director for Quality, Research and Innovation and Outreach within DG Agri in the European Commission. Her mission is in particular to promote EU agricultural products while increasing awareness for EU production methods, quality and organic policy on the international market, but also internal market as well. So Ms. Soos van de Vijver, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this invitation. I think the promotion policy has been in the spotlight for a few months now. So I think that it is appropriate to have now this kind of open debate. So the Commission completed an evaluation on the promotion policy in 2020, based on the first program launched after the last reform, which was in 2014. The evaluation found that the policy had a broadly positive effect. It contributes effectively to its general objectives of raising the awareness and the profile of EU products, quality schemes, and production standards, particularly for non-EU markets with the highest growth potential. The policy objectives and activities were found to be relevant and have a clear EU added value, so we can be proud of what we have achieved during the last years. But, however, the evaluation also found that there is a scope for improvement. It recommended that the review examines how to increase the coherence with the other policies. In particular, how the policy can support the transition toward a more sustainable EU agriculture sector. So, as Mrs. Katainen said, we are currently reviewing the promotion policy, and it is important to keep in mind certain aspects. And the first element which has to be taken into account is the EU citizens' views and expectations when it comes to food. As policy makers, we need to take account these citizen expectations, which are in terms of taste, affordability, access to healthy food, and support for more sustainable production methods. A special Eurobarometer survey, Making Our Food Fit for the Future, Citizen Expectation, was carried out during last summer, 2020. Among the findings of the survey, let me report the following. 89% of the respondents believe that producers and food companies should themselves take action to raise their product sustainability standard. 74% consider food being healthy for them as the most important aspect of a sustainable diet, far above of the other items. And 79% consider that marketing and advertising that do not contribute to healthy, sustainable diet should be restricted. The second aspect, which has to be taken into account, is the policy context. As you know, the Commission has a certain number of priorities, and one of these priorities is to make Europe the first climate neutral continent by 2050. So the European Green Deal and the Farm to Fork strategy have raised the Union ambition to move towards more sustainable food systems. The Farm to Fork strategy announced that the Commission will undertake a review of the EU promotion program for agricultural products with a view to enhancing its contribution to sustainable production and consumption and in line with the evolving diets. In relation to meat, the review should focus on how the EU can use its promotion program to support the most sustainable, carbon-efficient methods and livestock production. So we are not talking about exclusion. The new promotion policy can become a powerful tool to promote sustainably produced European food and, from one side, reward those livestock farmers and agri-food producers that have embraced the transition toward more sustainable, carbon-efficient methods of livestock production, and also provide incentives for others to follow suit and to start this transition towards more sustainable practices. The Commission has also adopted this year the Europe's Beating Cancer Plan. And the plan includes important reference outlining the direction for the review of the EU promotion policy. Notably, the Commission will review the promotion of alcoholic beverages, and the new promotion policy should contribute to promote sustainable production and consumption in line with the shift to a more plant-based diet with less red and processed meat and other foods linked to cancer risk and more fruit and vegetables. So now, how to achieve in practice the EU agri-food promotion policy can help achieve these different public policy goals while meeting its objective, which is the first objective of supporting the competitiveness of agriculture sector. It's something, of course, that we'll have to see in our policy review. So one of the objectives of the Commission is also to have a stronger Europe in the world. The Commission adopted in February this year the new trade policy review under the headline, an open, sustainable and assertive trade policy. So the review committed the Commission to continue supporting to the EU agriculture and agri-food sector composed primarily of SMEs, with a focus on promoting the sustainability and the quality of their product and making them a standard bearer of the EU food sustainability system globally. So the promotion policy has an important role in the promotion of EU agri-food products and standards in third countries, and approximately 50% of the annual budget has been dedicated to co-funding programs targeting markets all over the world. So, and the third element to be taken into account is the need of the EU agri-food sector to compete globally. So the promotion policy is essential to the competitiveness of the EU agricultural and food sector. Livestock farming and meat are integral components of the EU agri-food sector of our cultural and gastronomic tradition. So it was recognized in the evaluation that the policy has an added value that can only be achieved at EU level. So promotion programs targeting non-EU markets achieve a higher impact because cooperation between multiple stakeholders leads to a large-scale outreach program. So the EU dimension of co-funded promotion program contributes to the strengthening of the image of the EU origin producer and expose citizens to messages that contain a clear European dimension. So in conclusion, you will appreciate that from one side, supporting the transition toward more sustainable livestock management, production and consumption, facilitating the shift in consumption pattern toward more plant-based diet, while also strengthening the competitiveness of our agri-food sector will not be an easy task, but do we have any alternatives? I don't think so. The transition to more sustainable food system is not something that we can postpone any longer. All sectors have to step up the contribution towards the Paris Agreement, and the EU agri-food sector is included in this commitment. So the new promotion policy should provide the right incentive to support this transition towards a more environmentally sustainable agri-food and ensure that the transition is just and fair for everyone. Reversing the rise in obesity rates across the EU by 2030 is critical for the sustainability of our health system and our future economic prosperity and societal well-being. So moving to a more plant-based diet with less red and processed meat and with more fruit and vegetable will of course reduce not only the risk of the life-threatening disease, but also the environmental impact of the food system. So the review will carry out an objective assessment of the different options. We are now preparing this impact assessment and try to meet all these important policy ambitions. But this is not only about choosing the next topic to be financed. We must reflect more profoundly if the promotion policy, with its current structure and resource, can effectively trigger a meaningful shift in the EU production methods or in consumption patterns, while supporting the competitiveness of the agri-food sector. So, as mentioned by Mrs. Katainen, a 12-week public consultation is open until the 23rd of June to collect all the input from the stakeholders. And the public consultation outcome will be presented in an online conference, which will take place on the 12th and the 13th of July. So I would like to invite you to actively participate in both in the public consultation and in the online conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Soos van de Vijver, for your key remarks, but also the significant work of the European Commission with regards to the EU promotion policy and the work presented, highlighting both the need to ensure sustainability linked with the European Green Deal objectives, but also with regards to competitiveness, with regards to the global context of the discussions. Of course, it's very important that we act in full respect of human health and also in full consideration of EU citizens' views and expectations, as highlighted. So I would like to once again thank you for your speech. Our two next speakers are Mr. Erik Kam and Mr. Declan Koppinger, sharing both 15 minutes for their intervention. So please allow me to proceed with welcoming Mr. Erik Kam, who is Head of Unit on Pig Meat at the Danish Agriculture and Food Council. Mr. Karm is also a member of the COPA working groups for promotion and pig meat, and he is a representative in the EU Commission Civil Dialogue Group for promotional measures within the EU's Common Agricultural Policy. So, Mr. Kam, thank you very much for joining us today. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for inviting me, and I hope everybody can hear me. Yes, I will make a small presentation of a project that we are currently running in China and Hong Kong. I will give you some few details about it. It's a simple program, meaning that it's only one applicant, that is namely our organization, Danish Agriculture and Food Council. It promotes frozen pork, and the budget for a 3-year period is approximately 4.8 million euros, of which 80% is supported by the EU Commission. The project ends at the end of this year, and I think it's also very important to notice that the export value of EU pork to China is around 7.6 billion euro. It's a very big amount, and it supports thousands of people, both in primary production, but also in processing and slaughtering. China is the biggest market, and one should also know that the main competitors, US, Canada, and Brazil, are also running big promotional programs in China, but also everywhere else in the world where we are exporting our products. While I'm at it, I will just mention that one thing is, you can say, the traditional promotion elements where you make advertising, you have seminars and so on. That's one thing. But another thing that is of common interest for everybody, no matter if it is organic, no matter if it is a small and medium-sized company, it is market access. And promotion is actually helping us creating market access around in the world with those high-level visits where we normally see participation from the commissioners. And this is a very good occasions to actually discuss and develop market access. And that goes for all product and all product types and all product methods. I will go to the next slide. Just a second. There it is. The action objectives in our program, that is actually sustainable and competitiveness. The European pig meat industry is already highly engaged in the sustainable agenda, and there are some very strong commitments on a lot of sustainable areas. That goes for animal welfare, it goes for traceability, food safety, it goes for the commitments on only using certified soy and so forth, and transport. So there is a lot of things, and we are engaged, and we are making promises on reducing CO2 emissions as rapid as possible. So in general, one should know that the European pig meat sector is in the front row when it comes to sustainability when we compare to the competitors around in the world. We are already using a lot of sustainability parameters in our promotion towards the Chinese markets. The focus is to educate and raise awareness, especially among the middle-class consumers that are growing enormously in China and are becoming more and more aware of the sustainable agenda. I think we actually have something really strong areas in the EU to promote here. Of course, we are interested always to increase the European market share. We are in a competition on a daily basis, and if we can increase our market share and we can increase our income, that's always something that is high on our agenda. And if we are going to succeed, I think the EU should focus on the higher value products. That is where we have our strengths. We have all these things that we are doing towards all these areas just mentioned, and if we are going to take value from that, it needs to be communicated. And that's where the promotion program is so important. That is to communicate the differences that we are doing and investing in the EU. And if we cannot, you can say, communicate these advantages, risk are that consumers, they don't know why they should eventually paying a higher price for the product. Next, no, sorry, yes. The strategy and the activities, well, the target groups, it's the traders, the importers, the distributors, it's the modern retail service operators, again, urban middle class, and the measures, it is, you can say, the traditional measures that are used in promotion is digital and social media, communication tools, different events, point of sale promotion in supermarkets, retailers. And we have, of course, also study tours, visiting European production sites and presenting our production methods and all these things. Very important. And then if we take the measures, yeah, I just mentioned it. Also, of course, a big thing in China is the exhibitions. In Asia in general, they are very well visited. There is actually coming a lot of important people, a lot of people visiting visitors at exhibitions. This is really, you can say it's an old-fashioned way of promoting, but it is very strong in Asia. So that's an important measure. Yes, and then of course food service promotion. You can see showing products in the supermarkets, and I also have a small picture of the previous commissioner, Mr. Hogan, just mentioning the importance of market access. promotion is a very strong tool, and it's the combination of, you can say, organizations representing members in shared presentation with the Commission and other public persons is very strong and should be strengthened even further. I just mentioned already in the beginning some of the key messages, but we are actually using a lot of communication which is related to sustainability on the European pig meat sector. The sustainability of the EU is leveraged as a unique sales point vis-a-vis competition and competing countries. We have excellent quality, and there are some, I would say, smaller misunderstandings on transport, for instance, where there is a presumption that the transport constitutes for a high degree of the CO2 emission, but actually transporting frozen meat in containers is not contributing so much. It's less than 3% of the total emission per produced kilo. And actually, if you look at transport in general, the more we can use the capacity when ships are sailing, the better actually, because if we cannot fill European goods in the containers coming from China, then the boat will sail anyway, and it will probably be less full and more empty. So it's about using the resources available, and therefore, in general, transport is not contributing that much to CO2 emission. Then there are, of course, the concerns about animal welfare. It's also a growing concern in China. I will say it's the point of departure is lower than it is in the western part of the world, but it is growing. And there we again, I just underline what I'm saying previously. It is again an area where we really have something to be proud of. We are really moving on animal welfare. We have loose going pregnant sows, and we just made an agreement in COPA among each other how to progress on further areas and investments. But if we are doing all these things, it is so important also on the internal market to inform consumers about what we are investing in and what we are doing. So we don't risk that at the end of the day, if the consumers are not well informed, there is a risk that the EU will simply import more and more and consume more and more cheaper products from Brazil, from US, from everywhere. So not being eligible or less eligible for promotion funds, it's quite risky, I would say, because affordability is also an area that is of concerns of many consumers. Then we are strong on transparency. We are very strong on food safety. This is also key messages. We do not use hormones. We are very good on low antibiotics. We have no residues, and all these, or the residue levels are extremely low. All these things are also used in our communication. So by these few words, I will thank you all for listening to me, and I will be prepared to answer any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kamp, for your intervention and for presenting us in such a holistic strategy and set of actions with regards to awareness raising and education, but also sustainability and increasing quality, also high value of exported products in respect of the world's animal welfare standards, and also your work on transparency and food safety. Our next speaker is Mr. Declan Coppinger, Finance Manager at Board BIA, the Irish Food Board, specializing in state aid and EU matters. Since March 2020, Mr. Coppinger also chairs the Agri-Food Promotions Committee of ETPOA, the European Trade Promotion Organizations Association, and participates in the Civil Dialogue Group on Quality and Promotions on behalf of UECBV, the European Livestock and Meat Trades Union. Mr. Coppinger, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Elias, and Thank you very much. Delighted to have this opportunity to speak about the EU promotion policy, its impact on competitiveness and sustainability. And it's very timely with next week's deadline for the close of the public consultation. At the outset, like people said before me, the role of the EU promotion policy in the post-Brexit era and dealing with the consequences of COVID-19, it's more important than ever if we're going to maintain competitiveness of the sector. Like all sectors, the pandemic has impacted on the meat industry. The closure of hospitality and restrictions of travel have skewed consumption patterns, has led to reduced demand for high-value meat cuts, particularly in steaks, and this has had consequences for returns throughout the sector. So the promotion policy must continue to endorse and support Europe's high standards in food safety, quality, animal welfare and sustainability if we want to maintain competitiveness in global markets, as well as realising the opportunities arising from bilateral trade agreements. If we fail to support European standards in the sector, what's the alternative? It opens the door to imports of agri-food products from outside the community, which are not of equivalent high standard. This will undermine the competitiveness and integrity of our farmers, our growers and food producers. It will also erode the confidence of European consumers. It's our view that all products as currently set out in Regulation 1444 of 2014, including red meat, should be eligible for funding and given an equal and fair opportunity in securing EU co-funding support. As Natalie said earlier, there are a number of policy priorities that will be taken into account in the upcoming review. The key one is the Farm to Fork strategy, which is at the heart of the European Green Deal. And this policy seeks to support the most sustainable, efficient methods of livestock production by rewarding farmers for emission reduction and carbon sequestration. We also recognise the EU agri-promotion policy review will draw upon other EU policies, such as Europe's Beating Cancer Plan. Ensuring policy coherence for food, health, climate and the environment, it's a delicate balance. However, we are concerned at how Europe's Beating Cancer Plan is advocating for a shift towards a more plant-based diet with less focus on red and processed meats. It's imperative that the new promotional policy does not result in a disproportionate shift towards a plant-based diet and diminution of red and processed meats. So we are looking for a science evidence-based policy outlook. It needs to be the term plant-based, for example, is growing in popularity. According to a recent survey by British Nutrition Foundation, many people are confused about its definition. The reform of the policy should take a measured and informed approach towards plant-based diets. The new policy should continue to promote all animal-sourced foods such as dairy, eggs, meat and seafoods, as they are all nutrient-rich. Natalie also mentioned the EU Commission Eurobarometer report, making our food fit for the future citizens' expectations. And in that barometer report, almost 6 in 10 surveyed indicated that a healthy and sustainable diet involves eating a variety of different foods and having a balanced diet. Red meat remains an important part of a healthy, balanced diet. It's a key source of iron, zinc, B vitamins and potassium. We should not undervalue the role that red meat plays in the diets of children, adolescents and adults. According to World WHO Key Facts on Healthy Diet, ruminant trans fats found in meat and dairy foods are deemed an appropriate form of energy intake. I'm sure we'll hear more about the health benefits of red meat in later presentations. So, national quality assurance schemes and EU co-funded environmental initiatives have encouraged and incentivised European farmers and processors to promote sustainability and address climate change issues. These schemes have established a clear charter and defined actions for farmers to farm in a sustainable way. In my experience in Ireland, where we've had quality assurance schemes for over 20 years, these farmers play an important role in ensuring sustainability. In 2012, we launched the Orange and Green Sustainability Programme, the first national scheme of its type in the world. 54,000 livestock farmers are part of the programme, along with all other stakeholders in the food supply chain. You'll see from the image on the right there the details of the farm engagements, which cover improvements in greenhouse gas emissions, biodiversity, energy and water use. These schemes were ahead of their time and transformed attitudes towards the long-term benefits of the environment, the rural landscape and the importance of sustainability. It's incumbent on the EU Commission to continue to incentivise and reward the climate action initiatives of European agri-food stakeholders by promoting their produce, including red meats, both within the community and in third country markets. The exclusion of red meats from the promotional budget would significantly undermine the efforts and buy-in of livestock farmers in relation to sustainability. So just in summary, just to emphasise the key points there, the promotion policy has a key role in the economic recovery. All products must get support. The livestock sector must not be sacrificed at the behest of plant-based products. Measured science-based evidence is needed. Red meat has a role to play in a balanced and healthy diet. And as guardians of the environment, livestock sector must be incentivised in the promotion policy. So thank you very much, and I'm happy to take questions later.
Thank you very much, Mr. Koppinger, for underlining the EU promotion policy's ambition and vital role in ensuring competitiveness, but also contributing in such a key manner to economic recovery. Mr. Koppinger also, within his presentation and within his policy recommendations, made a clear link with regards to the Farm to Fork and the EU Beating Cancer Action Plan, highlighting inter alia the need for a science-based approach. So once again, thank you very much for your intervention today. Our next speaker is Professor Alice Stanton, who is a clinician, scientist, and professor of cardiovascular pharmacology at the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland. Professor Stanton is also Director of Human Health at Devenish Nutrition, and further to that, she currently serves on the committee developing Ireland's agri-food strategy to 2030. So Professor Stanton, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that introduction. And what I'd like to discuss with you this afternoon is the role of animal source foods in protecting human health. We're not doing very well concerning nutrition in the world. We know that almost 1 billion are chronically undernourished, the central panel there. And almost 2 billion are overweight or obese. What's little recognized is there's another 2 billion out of the 7.5 billion that suffer from hidden hunger, in particular from micronutrient deficiencies and inadequate quality of diet. And that situation may well get worse because the world's population is growing. This is the situation for dietary risks in terms of deaths in the left panel and DALYs in the right panel. DALYs are disability adjusted life years, and they're a measure of illnesses effects that don't kill you. So they're a very good measure of the misery caused by illness and also the costs, the healthcare costs that are associated with illness. What I've put on the top are the excesses and then the deficiencies. And you can see the big excesses are obesity and diets that are high in salt. And the big deficiencies are child and maternal malnutrition or diets low in whole grains, low in fruits, seeds, vegetables, omega-3 fatty acids. What's the impact of diets that are excessive in processed meats and red meat? In total, they contribute to less than 1%, 0.1% and 1% of deaths and DALYs are attributable to excessive red meat and processed meats, respectively. So they're not causing much illness in excess. And let's look at how this works according to the dose of red meat. Firstly, let's look at what we're consuming in red meat. And these are the estimates of red meat consumption in 2019, according to the Global Burden of Disease collaborators. And so for high-income countries, for Europe and North America, on average, we're eating about 50 grams of red meat per day, spread throughout the week, so 350 grams per week. These lower peaks concern the low-income and middle-income countries. The vast majority of the world's population are consuming less than 75 grams of red meat per day, and that's less than or equal to 4 portions of red meat per week. So how does that correspond to causation of heart attacks? So these are the 4 biggest studies that have looked at the relationship between increasing amounts of red meat intake on the horizontal axis and risk of heart attack. And you can see that at 50 grams of red meat per day, which is the average of Europe, in fact, 3 out of the 4 studies show that there's a trend towards reduction in risk of heart attack. At 100 grams, which is the limit of what people are eating, in fact, 2 of the studies show protection, the Nurses' Health study and the PURE study, and 2 of the studies show a trend towards increased risk. However, none of these trends are statistically significant because none of the 95% confidence intervals do not include 1. So therefore, this is low quality or low certainty evidence of any risk, and it's basically a flat relationship. Similarly, for the major cancer that's implicated or associated with red meat eating, this is the relationship between increased red meat intake and risk of colon cancer. And it does gradually increase. But look at 100 grams of red meat per day. This is a 5% increase, and it's only just barely statistically significant, a very flat relationship. The relationship between illness and red meat and processed meat consumption was comprehensively reviewed in 6 publications in the Annals of Internal Medicine, published in 2019. And they looked at what was the size of the risk, and they concluded very few deaths are caused from cardiovascular disease, from type 2 diabetes mellitus, and cancer. And importantly, the certainty of the evidence was very low or low, and that was for unprocessed red meat and for processed meat. They concluded considerable uncertainty surrounding the evidence linking red meat consumption to adverse outcomes, and that adults should continue current red meat eating habits. And this was confirmed by a study which was just published this year. Relationship between increasing quantities of red meat, this time in terms of grams per week, and total mortality, so all deaths, a trend towards protection, not statistically significant, but certainly no increase in risk. Let's look at dairy. And in actual fact, diets that are low in milk, calcium, and vitamin D actually cause deaths and DALYs. On average, the world is consuming approximately 100 grams per day. Many are consuming less than that of milk. That's shown in the left-hand panel. However, in actual fact, milk consumption and dairy consumption up to 900 grams per day actually is protective, causes a 25% statistically significant reduction in colon cancer. So why are we not getting this benefit? Similarly, for cardiovascular disease, In this study, the PURE study again, it was a worldwide study which includes countries from high income, low income and middle income countries. They looked at, for cardiovascular disease, drinking 0 to 5 servings per day of dairy products versus 0.5 to 1 servings versus 1 to 2 servings per day or greater than 2 servings per day, and look at the benefits for increasing quantities of dairy consumption. A 30% reduction in cardiovascular disease and a 25% reduction in cardiovascular mortality. Rather than looking at the small effects of diets excessive in processed meat and diets excessive in high red meat on chronic illnesses such as cancer and cardiovascular disease, let's look at the impact of poor diets on child and maternal malnutrition and vitamin and mineral deficiencies. These cause a multitude, so 3.5 million deaths and an even greater effect on DALYs per year. Childhood stunting is a key outcome from poor maternal and child malnutrition. And childhood stunting is not just small children, it's poorly grown children, but also poorly developed brains within children, affecting their cognition, affecting their engagement with learning, their cognitive function, and their later career options and employment options, and therefore a vicious circle of poor achievement and poor economics are created with poor childhood and maternal malnutrition. This is the world map of the percentage of children under 5 who are stunted. And you can see the pink colored countries are in sub-Saharan Africa and in southern Asia. They are exactly the same countries that are eating very little red meat and also very little milk consumption. India actually does have a reasonable milk consumption. It still has a lot of stunting. It has very low meat consumption. These are associations. Let's look at a randomized controlled trial. This was a study that was conducted in Kenya where 7-year-old children were randomized to having no additional food, to having a vegetable stew, to having a vegetable stew plus milk, to having a vegetable stew plus red meat daily throughout 2 years. And these are the scores at the end of the 2 years. So there was 7 subjects assessed: arithmetic, English, 2 local languages, geography, science, and the arts. In each of them, the red meat group did best, and the composite score shows that they got 45 points out of 350 greater at the end of 2 years, whereas the control group actually performed less well after 2 years. There's a wealth of evidence that show that diets low in meat and dairy, vegetarian and vegan diets, are problematic for bone, brain, and blood health. Just to pick hip fractures are increased by 50% in vegetarians. They are doubled in those who follow a vegan diet long term. Now, the Eat Lancet Commission reference diet recommended a doubling of intake of fruit, vegetables, legumes, nuts, and seeds, a halving of meat and dairy intakes, and a 90% reduction in red meat consumption. And that resulted in headlines, "Eat plants, save the planet." And that was correct, because the drive for the reduction in meat and dairy intakes and the 90% reduction in red meat consumption was not for human health, because as I've shown you, dairy protects human health and red meat only in excess has a small effect. They were driven by the need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and therefore for environmental concerns, hence the importance of sustainable agricultural policy. However, they've been translated in the farm to fork strategy into moving to a more plant-based diet with less red meat and processed meat. And that's justified by the estimate that in the EU in 2017, almost 1 million deaths were caused by unhealthy diets. But actually, less than 2% of those deaths are possibly, because it's low certainty evidence, linked to excessive red meat and processed meat consumption. Likewise, Europe's Beating Cancer Plan is recommending a more plant-based diet with less red meat and processed meat. But excess red meat and processed meat are only linked to less than 2% of all cancers. The big risk factors for cancers are tobacco, 33% of the risk, excess weight and obesity. All of diet quality is included here, 5%. So that includes the benefits of fruit and vegetables, the benefits of milk, and the potentially damaging effects of red meat consumption at very excessive quantities. Red meat and dairy, as has been said by some of the previous speakers, are nutrient-rich foods. The relationship between red meat and disease burden is mirror image J-shaped. So the limb on the left-hand side with very low intakes of red meat is considerably higher than the limb that is on the right-hand side associated with excessive red meat consumption. So excessive red meat consumption may be associated with the 5 to 15% increments in colon cancer and cardiovascular events. But insufficient red meat consumption without really good replacement of protein, vitamin, and mineral-rich foods is associated with a 2 to 10-fold increments in iron and B12 deficiency anemia, stunted childhood growth and cognition, osteoporosis, and sarcopenia. As I said, milk or dairy intake protects against both nutritional deficiencies, cancer, and cardiovascular diseases. If red meat and dairy are considerably reduced or excluded from the human diet, considerably greater disease burdens will result. And it's women, children, the elderly, and those of low income who will not be able to replace those animal source foods appropriately will be particularly adversely impacted. Thank you for your attention, and I'd be very happy to answer any questions after this session.
Thank you very much, Professor Stanton, for your key messages, but also for presenting us the multiple researches results and also the scientific evidence, which are of significant meaning with regards to the context of today's event, as underlined also by our previous speakers. Looking ahead, our next speaker is Jean-François Zoquet, who is the research director at INRE, which stands for the French National Research Institute for Agriculture, Food and Environment. And specifically, Mr. Zoquet is an expert in biology and beef quality, and inter alia is a member of the High Council for Evaluation of Research and of the European Federation of Animal Science. So, Mr. Zoquet, you have the floor. In case you're trying to speak, I think that you are muted.
You hear me?
Yes, very well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I apologize, but I am in a public area, so I will do my best to give my talk. This talk is entitled Guaranteed Eating Quality and Better Livestock System are Key Issues. So the problem to solve has been discussed many times. We need to provide enough foods, enough animal products to satisfy the needs of the increasing human population, coupled with a lower footprint to protect the environment and also addressing societal needs in terms of animal welfare and product quality for the consumer. Therefore, the research in animal science has changed a lot towards sustainability. In the past, the main objective was to increase production. After we moved to efficiency, we took into account safety, thereafter quality, and nowadays welfare issues, environmental issues, and any social issues. And nowadays we have to address all these issues together because they are very important. So the definition of quality is now very broad. So we can define first intrinsic quality, which refers to the characteristics of the product itself. It includes sensory traits, safety, healthiness, convenience, and so on. Extrinsic quality refers to traits which are associated with the product, namely production system characteristics, including animal welfare, carbon footprint, but also marketing variables, including price, brand, name, distribution, origin, packaging, and so on. So let's start, please, by the sensory quality, which are very important, because when the consumers eat food products, they should have some pleasure. Close to sensory quality, you have safety, nutritional quality, and all together combined are the intrinsic quality, and this should be combined with social quality, which includes also the quality of life of the farmers, of the workers, the image of the animal products in terms of gastronomy and tradition, for instance. We have also the environmental quality, and finally, the economic quality to ensure enough incomes for farmers. And the aim of research nowadays is to combine all these criteria together. So I said that intrinsic quality is very important because consumers want to buy guaranteed meal results. Eating food is a pleasure. Unfortunately, beef price in Europe depends on carcass weight, conformation, and fatness, not on beef quality. And of course, consumers do not eat carcasses. Therefore, there is the International Meat Research at 3G Foundation, which is promoting the 3G system, which comes from an Australian methodology. The idea is to ask untrained consumers to score beef for 4 criteria: tenderness, juiciness, flavor, and overall liking. And these criteria are combined together with different weights in a global eating quality score called MQ4. With this score, it's possible to define different eating quality grades: unsatisfactory, below a value of 46, 3 stars, which mean good every day, between 46 and 64, 4 stars, which means better than every day, between 64 and 76, and 5 stars or premium above 76. And this approach has been approved by the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe. With this system, it's possible to predict beef eating quality from animal and carcass traits. And these traits include the weight of the carcass, how carcasses are hung in the chiller, plus ossification score, which is an indicator of animal age, animal physiological maturity, temperature and pH, marbling, which is the amount of intramuscular fat within beef, within the meat, fat thickness, meat and fat color. And combining all these criteria together, it's possible to develop a modeling approach to predict beef eating quality for each cut, combined with the cooking methods, with the preparation of the beef. And you can see you have here 3 stars, 4 stars, and 5 stars for the different beef grades. So I said also that goods and services derived from livestock farming systems are very important. And my colleagues have developed a methodology to represent in drawing these goods and services. And we have 5 families of goods and services to take into account. The first one is related to the market. It includes, of course, production of dairy and meat products, food consumption, but also international trade. The second one is related to social concerns. It includes animal health, animal welfare, gastronomy, cultural aspects, and so on. The third one is made by inputs, animal feed, land use, water, and whatever. The first one is related to the environmental issues. It includes not only greenhouse gases emissions, but also positive effects with the green arrows, such as carbon storage, water quality, biodiversity of plants and animals. And finally, you have the jobs related to livestock farming, direct and indirect employment. So on this picture, you have negative effects with red arrows and positive effects with green arrows. So in this collective work, all the different livestock farming systems in the European Union have been characterized, and they are represented on this map with different colors. I would like here to take 2 examples. One example in red in Brittany, which is a low grassland system with high animal densities. And there is a green one in the center of France, which is a grass-based system. So the first one in Brittany in red is characterized by less green. So the picture has not a lot of green, and you have many arrows in red with negative effects, or in green with positive effects. If you consider grassland systems, you have more green in the center of the picture because you have more grass, of course, and you have also more green arrows. And one of my colleagues has published a scientific paper entitled Make Ruminants Green Again. So if we go into details, we can analyze different farms, and we did that in the Charolais area in France. And on the picture, you have the economic performances, which are represented, as well greenhouse gas emissions. And you can see a great variability on greenhouse gas emissions, and also a high variability of the gross margin in euros. But anyway, there is a negative correlation. So it means that it's possible to have some win-win relationships, because farms the most efficient on an economic basis are also the most efficient in terms of greenhouse gas emissions, lowest greenhouse gas emissions. So in this book, entitled in French, L'élevage pour l'agroécologie et une alimentation durable, we have developed in different chapters the concept of regenerative agriculture and agroecology. It's based on a virtuous cycle between crops, animals, and human beings. So there is a third partner in this cycle, soils. And so soils can be enriched with manure from animals. And when soils are richer, they produce more crops for human beings and more grass for animals. And animals and crops are good for human food, because animals produce, of course, meat and dairy products. So in conclusion, I would like to say that the drivers of meat consumption are more and more numerous and complex. I would like to indicate that consistent eating quality is something very important, and the price connected to quality plus social issues such as welfare, environmental issues, and transparency are key issues for consumer trust. And this was discussed 2 days ago in the Food for Future Congress in Spain. Some meat alternatives, especially culture meat, are oversimplified solutions. Prediction of eating quality is improving, and it will be part of the solution because eating food is a pleasure. Regenerative agriculture and agroecology are key solutions, and something I didn't discuss here, reducing food waste and having more balanced diets are also key solutions. So thanks very much for having listened to me. I'm pleased to answer to some questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roquette, for joining us today and for presenting us the current challenges, but also some key opportunities ahead. At this stage of the event, I would also like to take the opportunity to reply to some questions from the audience with regards to the slides, but also today's webinar, to confirm that indeed both slides, but also the recording of the event will be available at the European Parliament Intergroup website following the event at ebcd.com/intergroup. And that's also perhaps a good opportunity to once again remind our audience for today to send us your questions. You can do that at this stage of the event onwards using the Q&As box at the right of your screen. And once again, in doing so, please choose the all panelists option and make sure to also note the speaker to whom the question is best addressed, as we will proceed with the Q&As discussion in some minutes' time. Prior to that, I'm happy to introduce our next speakers, starting with Michel Spangaro, who is the head of the Brussels office at ASICA, the Industrial Association of Meat and Cured Meats. So, thank you very much for joining us today. And Mr. Spangaro, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me well?
Yes, very well.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm Michele Spangaro. I represent ASICA, the Italian Meat Manufacturers Association. We are mainly representing daily meats. Within ASICA, we have a promotion department. And I have to confess that this promotion department couldn't live and operate without participating in the EU promotion programs. In fact, we have been participating to these programs since the beginning with good results. And we think we are perfectly in line with the farm to fork objectives. But this I will explain to you a little bit later. First of all, let me say a couple of words of introduction regarding the EU promotion policy revision as a whole. We are convinced that the new EU promotion policy should reflect, when it comes to the effects on climate, biodiversity, and environment, that there are no sustainable or unsustainable sectors per se, but sustainable and unsustainable business practices. This should be really highlighted. To this extent, the EU promotion policy should focus on production methods and not on products and or sectors. Likewise, when it comes to healthy eating, it should focus on diets and not on single nutrients and or ingredients or foods. Why? Because a healthy, balanced diet means eating a wide variety of foods in the right proportions. The problem is overconsumption, is not consumption, because every food has a role in a balanced diet if it is consumed in the right amount and frequency, and of course, if it is coupled with adequate physical activity. This is something we believe deeply. The problem is, I repeat, is overconsumption, because even if you eat too much water, you go straight to the hospital. It has been put forward by even within the European Commission, I would say, that the possibility to exclude some sectors or to phase out the promotion aids for some products, mainly meat, milk products, wine, and so forth. We are convinced that this, if it will be so in the revision of the EU promotion policy, it will consist in a major own goal by the European Commission and the European institutions. Why? Because as I said at the beginning, the promotion measures we are implementing both in the internal market and in third countries over the years and in our sectors are already coherent with the farm to fork strategy, because the policy we use towards consumers and especially millennials is concentrated and on the qualities of added value daily needs, and we are spreading among consumers the concept that we should shift to less but better consumption. In other words, we keep on saying, describing the characteristics of our products and the culture behind our products, that it is better to eat 3, 4, 5 slices of a good quality daily meat than eating every day cheap and low quality meat products. A proof of this is that in the last years, the sales of high quality daily meat products, including GIs, and I highlight this concept, we represent also GIs, but not only GIs. So the sales of these products led in the following years to a decrease of sales in volume, but an increase of sales in value. And even millennials, most exposed to ultra-processed cheap products, started, thanks to the promotion activity, to prefer some slices of daily meat products, especially, as I said, but not only GIs, rather than a higher quantity of less sustainable and cheap products, which, and this is also important, in any case are not falling into the scope of the promotion of the EU promotion activities. And to understanding, we are convinced that this is a clear example of promotion of social, economic, and environmental sustainability. And last but not least, and also my colleague and friend Eric from Denmark said it, it is important to understand that the exclusion of some sectors, the hypothetical exclusion of some sectors from the EU promotion funds, could leave consumers exposed to promotion of third countries, which can better market products less sustainable with the support of their governments. in short, and it was repeated today many times, fortunately, the EU promotion policy should help to promote sustainability within each sector. This is the core of the problem and the core issue. Last but not least, I would like to add just a few words saying that unfortunately within the Green Deal and the Farm to Fork strategy, which we support from the bottom of our heart, and we are very convinced of the sustainable path, but we would like to be part of the game, that there is a sustainability definition indicators are missing, and this is hampering the work of the European institutions and also of our companies, which are really investing. They have already started since years investing a lot on sustainability. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Spangarov, for your remarks, but also for your recommendations. Concerning the points linked with excluding some sectors, there is a relevant question also received by the audience. So this is a point that we can come back as well during the Q&A discussion to follow. Prior to that, I'm happy to introduce Ms. Stenberg. Birte Stenberg is our next speaker and the Secretary General of AVEC, the Association of Poultry Processors and Poultry Trade in the European Union. Ms. Stenberg is also an executive committee member of the International Poultry Council since 2017. And prior to that, she was the director of the Danish Poultry Meat Association. So, Ms. Stenberg, very happy to have you here at the event today. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Elias, and thank you very much for the opportunity to address this important audience. I will see if I can succeed in sharing my screen. I think I did. Well, let's start out with the beginning. The production of meat and other animal protein in Europe is done already in a very climate smart way. This is not numbers that I have drawn up from the earth. It's numbers from FAO, from GLEAM. And there it's very obvious that meat, and a kilo of meat or egg or butter or milk produced in the EU has very low emissions if we compare to other parts of the world. You might ask, why is the Russian Federation even lower? I think the best explanation is that they do not have that much beef production in Russia. But there we go. We are actually in the EU very good at producing more with less. And that's because we have had really a fantastic innovation on this field in many, many years already. I'm not saying that we shouldn't improve. Of course we should. And we definitely want to be a part of the solution there as well. Okay, then let's have a look at the meat consumption forecast. Because one thing is the ambition in the farm to fork strategy that people should eat less red meat and processed meat. Another thing is what the consumers actually will do. And this is the meat consumption forecast from the EU Agricultural Outlook in 2020. And there you can see that the DG Agri foresees there will be a small decline in the total meat consumption, but actually the poultry meat consumption is expected to go up with 5.2%. And you could say for my sector, that is fantastic. Yes, it is. But we continue. We import into the EU a lot of poultry meat. This is the average that we imported over the last 5 years. We imported around 20,000 tons of pork, 200,000 tons of sheep and goat meat, 300,000 tons of beef, and 900,000 tons of poultry meat. Actually, we import so much poultry meat that 25% of the poultry breast meat we eat in the EU comes from third countries. And you will say, well, I never see that when I go and shop in Carrefour. But you can't see it because it goes into food service and catering. So if you go to a restaurant, next time you order something with chicken, then please ask where it's from. It could very well be from Europe, but it could also be from a third country. Then on top of that, in trade negotiations with third countries or big blocs like the Mercosur, poultry meat has often been used as the little bit you can throw at the very end of the negotiations. This was actually done in the Mercosur agreements. All up till the last week of the negotiations, the amount offered to the Mercosur, and this is primarily Brazil, was 90,000 tons. But in the very last week, I don't know what needed to be closed, but they doubled this amount. So it went up to 180,000 tons extra quota in the Mercosur deal. 100,000 tons extra. Well, is that so much? Well, actually it is, because it's mostly poultry breast meat. Because here in Europe, we like to eat the poultry breast meat. We are not so fond of the wings and legs and so forth. So then if you make a calculation that if you can't sell the breast meat as a European producer, then you won't produce the chicken. So if we import 180,000 tons extra per year, it means that 6 million chickens less should be slaughtered in the EU per week. Per week, ladies and gentlemen. 6 million chickens less per week. So it's actually quite a lot. It equals the total production of Finland, Sweden, and Denmark on a year. That's quite a lot. Okay, we carry on. And the imported meat does not have the same high standards as we have producing under here in the EU. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have the high standards. Our members are very proud of producing under these very high standards because it guarantees the European consumers that they get the highest quality possible, the highest level of food safety, the highest level of animal welfare, and the highest level of environmental protection. Because here in the EU, we have legislation on all these matters. And this is a really, really good thing. And I'm not saying that the legislation we have is perfect. I'm not saying that we can't improve it. We are really willing to have a really good look at this. But we also need to be careful that we're not putting the bars up so high that it's not beneficial to produce in Europe anymore, and that we then need to import our meat from third countries where the standards are lower and where the emissions are higher. Globally, that's not very good for sustainability. Our competitiveness in the European poultry meat sector has been illustrated really well by Peter van Horn from Wageningen University. He has made a competitiveness study, and this is from 2018, but the picture is almost the same as today. And as you can see, the production costs in EU are the highest in the world. The main countries we import from are Brazil, Thailand, and Ukraine. And as you can see, we are not able to compete on price, but we are able to compete on quality. And therefore, since we are not able to limit the imports into the EU, we applied in 2019 for funds to promote EU poultry within the EU, and we are having such a project at the moment. It's a multi-project where we are 6 applicants, ABEC, the European Association, and 5 of our members, our German member, French, Polish, Dutch, and Italian member. And the main goal with this campaign is to raise the awareness on the high standards we produce in the EU and the high quality you get when you buy European produced poultry meat. And the target audience, of course, are the consumers, especially we are focusing on families with children, because as many of the former speakers have already said, eating meat is a really, really good thing for children and elderly. They simply need the protein and the micronutrients that are in meat, also in the white meat. How do we do it? Well, there is a website in 6 languages where we are giving all the facts we have about poultry meat, because there's so many myths floating around. Many people think that we use hormone to produce poultry. We don't. Many people think that broilers who are grown to produce poultry meat are growing in cages. They don't. They grow in big barns, or a very small proportion goes outside. And many other things, really, to inform as much as possible about the high standards we produce under here in the EU. Of course, we've had to alter the project a little bit because of the COVID crisis, but we have had a really good cooperation with Chafea. It's not called Chafea anymore, but anyway, the DG Agri unit who takes care of the promotion policy. So we have maintained a really, really good project, and we are expecting much more of it. And I'll be really happy to tell you more about it when we have all the results after after Christmas. So that was what I wanted to say. When it comes to create a fair, healthy and sustainable food system in EU, European poultry meat and the red meat and the processed meat is definitely part of the solution. Thank you so much for letting me speak here, and I will be very happy to discuss with you and answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Stenberg, for your intervention. Of course, fair, healthy, and sustainable food systems is what we're all after. So I think that your intervention very well painted the picture concerning the content of today's event with regards to both sustainability but also the competitiveness angle. And I would also like to mention that Ms. Stenberg, within her remarks, underlined the key role of innovation, of course, mentioning that there is always room for improvement, but underlining also the existing high level quality of EU standards, but also of current legislation. Seamlessly, I would like to transition to our next speaker. Last but not least, Mr. Paolo Patrono is Deputy Secretary General at Clitravi, which is the liaison center for the meat processing industry in the European Union. Mr. Patruno has extensive cooperative experience with international organizations, journals, universities, and companies, and he's also a member of the board Sherpas Committee at Food Drink Europe, which represents Europe food and drink industry. So, Mr. Patruno, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Elias, and thank you very much to all the other speakers. It's a pleasure for me to be here and give our view on the promotion policy and in a context of review of this important piece of legislation of the European Union. Basically, we know that the objective of the EU promotion policy is to enhance the competitiveness of the Union agri-food sector, bringing about greater competitive equity, both in the internal market and in the third countries. So we have to understand that one of the pillars inspiring the EU promotion policy is to allocate a budget and a sort of help for those small organizations which do not have a huge budget to spend in marketing, and to let know to both you and non-EU consumers the added value of their products. And this is one thing that the European Union promotion policy was able to achieve. This goal. It is important to note that there was also an evaluation carried on by the European Commission that recognized that the objective of the promotion policy remains relevant, recognized the success of the promotion policy, the actual framework of the promotion policy, and found that there were no inconsistency between the EU agriculture promotion policy and other policy, including the EU health, climate, environmental, and development policy. So it is an important recognition, in our opinion, and something that should inspire also the review of the promotion policy, starting from the success and as a starting point. And yes, why not aligning it to promote more sustainable business practices without forgetting the good points that in the past the promotion policy achieved. And when it comes to those achievements, it is important to note, as also our colleagues mentioned before, that the promotion policy succeeded in make the consumer aware of the added value of the EU agri-food products, many of the EU agri-food products. Let perceive also many products belonging to the EU culinary tradition as a pleasure, because food is a pleasure and it needs to be consumed in not over-consumed, but consumed in a right proportion and in a balanced way in the context of a balanced diet. And this is also something that the many initiatives funded by the EU promotion policy were able to achieve. We heard before our colleague Michele that made a very good example, and I can support this example because it is coming from data that we receive from companies and from organizations. We saw that in the last year, but it's these are data that are public available. There was a shifting in consumption, and consumers, especially millennials, shifted and preferred to eat less cheap products and enjoy less, but allocating the same resources to dairy meat products in our sector. And this is an important shifting because it's completely in line with the concept of eat less, eat better. That is one of the pillars of the Farm to Fork strategy. And this is something that should be taken into account also in the framework of the review of the promotion policy. Our sector is fully in line with the objective of the Farm to Fork strategy. Even if we don't agree too much in the narrative, we agree in the principle of the Farm to Fork strategy, and our businesses are investing in research and innovation and putting in place sustainable business practices in terms of marketing and promotion of healthy, balanced lifestyle, also thanks to the promotion policy program. Which help also to suggest mindful consumption to consumer, reformulation, animal health and animal welfare, cooperation on veterinary prevention, improvement of environmental footprint of our product, and promotion of circular economy, reduction of food waste, and promotion of sustainable packaging. These are all areas where our businesses and in general businesses of the whole livestock sector are active. We are looking to make our part in this transition, which we consider necessary for the health of the planet. And as I told, it is important that this is recognized also in terms of narrative. So which can be the ingredients, in our opinion, for a successful revision of the promotion policy? First of all, no ideological approach. Any kind of foodstuff can be part of balanced diet, and this is an important concept. We should not have a divisive debate also in the review of the promotion policy, and we should not make a mistake that was already done in other contexts, just to divide between good and bad food, or consider plant-based always good and animal-based food always bad. It's not something that should be taken on board on the review of the promotion policy, in our opinion. So no sector should be excluded, and this is an important ingredient of a successful review, in our opinion, of the promotion policy, especially with an overarching principle that already my colleague Michele explained, that when it comes to effect on climate, biodiversity, environment, there are no sustainable or unsustainable sectors per se, but sustainable and unsustainable and less sustainable business practices. And the aim of the promotion policy should be to promote sustainable business practices and to give a prize for those front runners who were able to innovate and to put in place sustainable business practices before the others. So for those front runners, there should be a recognition in terms of support to promote their business practices and to create at the same time the appetite for other players to do the same and to do better, because it's always possible to do better, and the promotion policy should be a milestone to help businesses to go a little bit far away in terms of sustainability. And this is an ingredient that could make a review of the promotion policy successful. So the promotion policy should help to promote sustainability within each sector, and the promotion policy should not be used to fund greenwashing practices. Even if one business practice would seem to be in line with the Farm to Fork strategy, it is important to recognize when we are in front of a real sustainability and in front of greenwashing. And this is a concept that also the promotion policy should take into account. Other ingredient, very important, is a strong and consistent budget that allocated also in a balanced way and combining the incentive of promotion of sustainable production methods and the market demand. It is important not to forget also in the review of the promotion policy that there are 3 pillars of sustainability. Social sustainability, environmental sustainability, but also economical sustainability. So when it comes to production method, it is important also that the budget of the promotion policy should be consistent of the real economy and the economical sustainability. And we also, another ingredient is that the Commission can learn from the previous success. Where the Commission can learn from the previous success is to allocate, when it comes to the program, the annual program, a part of the budget for their own initiatives, like the promotion seminar, the SPS promotion seminars, that are a valuable instrument that helps a lot businesses to solve outstanding SPS problem. I believe that these are the ingredients for a successful review of the promotion policy, and I give the floor for any question. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Patruno, for your intervention, moreover for sharing your feedback and recommendations concerning the measures, but also the vision of the EU promotion policy and the Farm to Fork strategy. On this note, as we are progressing with the agenda of today's event, I would like to kindly invite our speakers to open their cameras as we are proceeding with Q&A's part of today's discussion. So I see that we have 12 or perhaps a little more minutes for the Q&A's part, so I hope we can answer to the majority of the questions received. Starting perhaps with the one on the exclusion, the potential exclusion of some sectors from the EU promotion policy. As we've heard by some speakers before, there is a question from the audience, and I will read it out for our speakers as well. And that would be, what could be the consequences of excluding some sectors from the EU promotion policy? Perhaps we can hear from Mr. Spangaro, but also from Ms. Soos van de Vijver on this point.
Yes, thank you very much. I will repeat what I already said. The consequences will be that high value products, high quality and high added value products representing the core of European tradition and culture will be skipped, deleted from the European map of promotion activities, and probably replaced by cheaper and less sustainable products in the long run. Probably not in the shortest one, but in the medium-long run, and maybe also from products from third countries, but this is not the point. So there will be a lack, a missed opportunity to inform younger generations about the value of high added products.
So yes, if I may, the only product which is excluded now it's tobacco, and this will continue to be excluded. But as you have a look to the different documents adopted by the Commission, we are not talking about exclusion. We are refocusing in the review of the promotion to have perhaps more plant-based and less meat. But when you have put this on the table, that it is not an exclusion, but the idea is to focus more on the sustainability aspect of this production, of the metal production. And I listened very carefully to the different intervention, and it's true that this exclusion has to be analyzed inside. When we are preparing a reform, we have different options on the table. But for us, the message we receive, it's clearly not in favor of any exclusion, but perhaps what is important in the evolution of the promotion, it's to focus more and more on the production method and the sustainability aspect of this production method, and of course also a certain link with the healthy diet. But what is important, and I fully share what was said, it's a balanced diet, it's what is important. And the less consumption for those who have a certain overconsumption, it's something to be keep in mind, but not more than that. So I don't think that the exclusion, that if we have to exclude it at the end, we will have promotion only on fruit and vegetable, and only perhaps on organic fruit and vegetables if we want, and that is not realistic, and it is not in line with our evaluation, and because we can see that there is room for improvement, but nothing to change, not to do a revolution. We need to a certain evolution, but no revolution. Thank you.
Thank you very much to both speakers for your replies with regards to the question received. A second question would be with regards to, once again, the promotion policy and its contribution to avoid the sustainability leakage. So that would be, what other tools do you think that would be required? This can be an open question for all speakers, or perhaps we can provide the floor to Ms. Sos van de Vijver once again. I can read it once again, if it helps. The question would be, the promotion policy can contribute to avoid the sustainability leakage, but what other tools do you think would be required? I think that you are muted. Yes.
Yeah, no, it's a difficult question, because what does it mean as tools at EU level to have other elements if we have no more promotion? But we are maintaining the promotion, though, and we have also in parallel, as you know, also information of all what the CEP is providing, and in that context, we have also this opportunity to make the information for the consumer of all the very high level practices we have. So that's also another possibility, but I don't know if what is behind this question. Okay, so it's only what I can say at this stage.
Thank you very much. And I see that Ms. Stenberg also would like to take the floor, please.
Yes, thank you. I was in my intervention focusing a bit on the imports, and I would like to mention that again, because if we are not demanding the same standards of the things that we import, then we are going to see a huge problem with sustainability. And we often hear from the Commission that there are issues regarding WTO rules when it comes to this, and maybe those rules need to be investigated a bit more, and maybe they need to be changed, because otherwise we will never spread the good thoughts we have here in Europe on the Green Deal, on farm to fork, to the rest of the world. And we definitely need to do that. And another thing I might also add is there is generally so very little knowledge about how sustainable we actually produce in Europe right now. I'm not saying that we're good enough. We should definitely improve, but we are the place in the world where this production is the most sustainable. So if we are not spreading our knowledge and our way of doing things to the rest of the world, then the contribution, the reductions in Europe will only be a drop in the sea, and we won't feel it on a global basis.
Sorry, could I just echo those comments in terms of red meats? As said, any exclusion of red meats would certainly undermine the advances in environmental efficiencies that we have made already. And as I said, I think it would lead to what we would call carbon leakage. So demand for red meat and processed meats in the EU would be met by producers with less sustainable standards elsewhere in the world. So that I would just echo those comments. Thank you.
Hello, I can add something about research activities. We are currently developing some global scores to aggregate different criteria. This is a multi-criteria approach to have different criteria combined together to move towards sustainability. So the idea is to combine first different criteria related to environmental issues, then criteria related to welfare issues by combining different welfare indicators. So the research is working in that direction. This is what I wanted to say.
Thank you very much for highlighting that, Mr. Roquette. Perhaps we can take 2 more questions before we wrap up this session. The following question received would be, if all agricultural products have their place in a balanced and healthy diet, how can we ensure that we promote their sustainable and healthy consumption?
Yes, I mean, we couldn't be sure 100%. This should be a shared responsibilities. I share the view that the responsibility cannot be on consumers 100%, but it cannot be 100% on industry neither. So God helps you if you help yourself. So all partners of the chain and institutions, European institutions, have a great responsibility. And let me allow something to tell you something. This refrain repeated all over again and again by the European Commission, saying and repeating like a poem that we should eat more veg and fruits and less red meat, there is something wrong in it at the end of the day. When I listen to Mrs. Stanton's presentation, I have doubts about what is behind this refrain. Then there are. I have the impression that there has not been an in-depth analysis of what this means. Take pig meat, for example, simply from an economic point of view. We have seen that worldwide now pig meat is becoming the new gold of the next era. There are third countries basing their economic strategies look at China, look at US, or part of them also on pig meat. And we are talking in Europe to reduce production. There is something wrong. So sustainability should be at the core, should be the only discriminant. But if all the meat produced in Europe at the end of the day will prove to be sustainable, what's the problem?
Perhaps if I can add, we have already for this work program 2021, for the promotion work program, add a criteria linked to sustainability, production and consumption sustainability. That means that the applicant has to demonstrate in the draft program what are the link with this different aspect, and that will be one of the criteria when there will be the evaluation by our external evaluator. As you know, there is this procedure. So we had already put this, and it's the first year, and that will be useful also for us when we are preparing the reform to look a little bit what are the results for this first year. Thank you.
Perhaps Professor Stanton, I see you want to take the floor, please.
Yes, I'd just like to come in on how can we promote a healthy diet, and absolutely sustainability has to be at the core. I think we're making comments in EU documents that we need to eat less, but it depends on your starting point, particularly for red meat. If it's a U-shaped relationship, yes, there are some people who are eating red meat to excess, but there are some people who are not eating sufficient red meat or alternatives such as poultry, fish, and other nutrient-rich foods. So we need to be more granular in our advice, and we need to give guidelines. We do say that we should be eating 5 portions of fruit and vegetables a day, which I absolutely agree with. We may need to do it also for the protein-rich animal source foods, and explain that it's a U-shaped relationship. It's not like tobacco, that every cigarette you smoke is starting to do damage, and the more you smoke, the more problems you have. Animal source foods in general have a U-shaped relationship. We need to explain that to the consumers.
Thank you very much, Professor Stanton, for your reply. Perhaps we can take a final question, which has come up a couple of times throughout our Q&A's box, and I think that looking ahead, it can serve also as some summing up the discussion of today's event, and that would be, how can competitiveness and sustainability be combined in the future promotion policy? Perhaps we can provide the floor to our excellent set of speakers for today, perhaps with just 1 or 2 sentences, very brief replies to that, before providing the floor to Ms. Katainen for her closing remarks of today. Thank you.
Yeah, can I make a reply?
Yes, for sure.
So, I mean, we are already using sustainable parameters in our communication, and it is one of the strengths of Europe. So I think it is very important that we do not reduce or exclude any sectors from developing this sustainable production. So I think it is more important now than ever that we support our ambitions on the sustainable agenda, and that can only be done by supporting promotion in cooperation between private and the private sectors and the Commission and institutions. So I think there is added value there. I think we have strengths, and I think it is growing all over the world. But also we must be realistic about demand and supply. Thank you very much.
if I may, just a short remark. We believe very much in the green path. We are in favor on the for the farm to fork strategy. When the strategy was presented, or at least, let's say, when we were starting at European level to talk about the farm to fork strategy, we were very happy because for us, it is like what the white paper on hygiene was or represented in the year 2000. Because at the end, at that beginning in 2000, the majority of stakeholders were saying, no, it's too much, too many laws. They were complaining. But at the end of the day, that white paper and the European hygiene regulations gave us the possibility to export all over the world the safest food ever made on earth. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but this is the point. And we are convinced that the farm to fork could do the same, but we would like to be part of the game.
If I may just to add a couple of words on this, competitiveness and sustainability are not different concepts, but can be part of the same, can be two phases of the same huge project that the European Commission put in place. So we don't think that it is impossible to being sustainable, being competitive at the same time. And we believe that, as I already mentioned in my intervention, that initiatives like the promotion policy, but in general, any initiative under the farm to fork strategy, if balanced and if have the right narrative and an inclusive narrative, can help any sector to be sustainable, being also competitive. Thank you.
Yes, if I may, I fully agree with the last intervention. I think promoting the sustainable practices of the agri-food sector will help for the competitiveness of the sector. So it's not exclusive, but now it's a question how to present this, and so it's a question of focus. Now we are more focusing probably on this sustainability aspect than in the past, but as I say, it's a certain evolution based on our evaluation. It's clear that we have to improve this relationship with the other policies, and it's exactly what we intend to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all of our speakers for today. I'm aware that unfortunately, due to time limitations, we cannot reply to all the questions received by the audience, but on behalf of the Secretariat of the European Parliament Intergroup on Climate Change, Biodiversity and Sustainable Development, I'm very thankful for your replies and all in all for such a fruitful dialogue. So without further ado, I'd like to provide the floor back to MEP Ms. Elsi Katainen for her closing remarks of today's event. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your excellent presentation and a good discussion on the promotion policy. I hope that you all will deliver these by written to the Commission on this public consultation. Agricultural products consist around 9% of whole EU trade on 2020, and the balance between import and export is very positive to EU. Promotion policy has been a workable tool for the farmers for getting to the external markets and for promoting your good quality and food safety. In worldwide, the food system is under pressure. Climate change challenges our farmers with extraordinary weather conditions. Change of climate brings new pests for wider areas, but this huge change cannot be done by one continent, but needs bigger action all over the world. In addition, we need constant policy between different policy sectors. This is not always obvious. Sometimes between different actors in the same sector, left hand doesn't know what the right hand does. We need workable policy tools and actors from public as well as from the private sector to make actions for more sustainable promotion policy. In the future, I want to see promotion policy as a strong tool, which will take into account all the sectors of the EU agriculture, which is sustainable and which after the CAP reform will take a huge step forward in climate and in environmental ambition. We can only send our best wishes and courage to negotiators of all institutions to close the deal next week, so that we have a clear picture of the future rules of food production in Europe. I think that I have no much to add after our brilliant panelists. Thank you again for everybody of participating. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Katainen, for your closing remarks, as well as to all dear speakers for their contributions and key insights to the discussion today. As we have reached the end of today's webinar, I would like to also take the opportunity to thank our audience for joining us today on behalf of the European Parliament Intergroup Secretariat. Always looking forward to continuing the discussion in the near future. So until then, all the best and stay safe. Thank you very much.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.